out. It better be a good pick. And they already have their pick, so here we go. The Jets fans.
It could be a quarterback.
Think so?
Well, I think the quarterbacks.
This is the spot, Joe. Good call.
We're in the round where I think quarterbacks are going to start to go. So I think it could be a quarterback. Who knows?
Well, did they say the pick is on its way up already?
Yeah.
You're right. Well, this was about the slot we had originally for the expansion teams, but for anyone else, you have your pick of anyone other than the big two. McNair went to Houston and Kerry Collins went to Carolina. Let's see if it is a QB.
Basically where I had Rob Johnson going.
First pick in the second round, number 33 overall. The Jets have selected guard from Northwestern, Matt O'Dwyer.
Matt O'Dwyer. But that's actually a good value pick because Mel, on a lot of boards, we had him gone in the first round. So he's a true guard from Northwestern. And so the Jets now, even though their offensive line, which, as we mentioned earlier in the show, they lost 3 guys that started along the line from last year. Richie Kotite evaluated the team, told me that it's a lot better than people would think, losing 3 starters like a White and a Criswell and the veteran center Sweeney. But now you move up some of the young guys to starters, you need some depth. And O'Dwyer's a good value pick here, agree?
He is, and I'll tell you, you took some criticism late in the process. When you talk to some people, personnel people, they say he's a little stiff, not flexible enough, not the great athlete, but what he is a heck of a football player. Very intense kid, very strong, really more of a street fighter who really gets after people as an intense drive blocker. And, of course, he was a former tackle, moved inside the guard, so he can pass protect real well. Here he is standing up Michael Tobias in the Senior Bowl, did a great job down there. In the first round, I think people may have had some criticism of that pick. Early in round 2, they can't, simply because of the fact this kid plays all out, 60 minutes, sustains his block like a pinball, Joe. He's always looking to block somebody, keeps his feet pretty well, and you can say he's stiff and say he's not a great athlete, but we're not talking about the first round anymore. We're talking early second round, and with offensive linemen, tough, aggressive, overachieving players tend to really develop in the NFL.
I think the Jets, have done very well today. I think they've been unique. Kyle Brady, I would have to put in a category of unique. We never expected it. Hugh Douglas gives him the kind of guy you really want. He's going to play down. Is he a linebacker? Is he a defensive end? That's the question. O'Dwyer gives you that solid guard inside. There's absolutely no question that Richie Kotite is putting his stamp on the New York Jets. This has become his football team, and it sure is not going to look like it did last year. So I think Richie's just making some statements with his picks.
Yeah, well, this one for the slot, not that Brady at that slot was off the charts at all, but this one is a perfect slot for O'Dwyer, who some folks had going up as high as where Miami was picking a little bit earlier in the first round. So next up on the charts are the San Diego Chargers. Be the first time we finally hear from them today making a pick. Let's go down to Chris Mortensen. Mort?
Well, Chris, after the Super Bowl, no surprise here. They're going to go. They got to go with a defensive back here. It's going to be Terrence Shaw, cornerback from Stephen F. Austin. And just a note here that Joe Theismann needs to kind of elaborate on. Bobby Beathard, the general manager of the Chargers, says he's been pretty much following all the Stephen F. Austin cornerbacks over history. The last great one that he took was Mark Mosley. Joe?
Yeah, Mark was, Mort, the great thing about Mark Mosley out of Stephen F. Austin, he was a heck of a corner, but he was a better kicker in the National Football League. I don't think that's going to happen.
Oh, those Stephen F. Austins.
Those
right?
Funny Stephen F. Austin guys.
The second pick in the second round, number 34 overall, San Diego from Carolina. San Diego has selected defensive back from Stephen F. Austin, Terrence Shaw. Houston is on the clock.
Mel, does that surprise you?
No, not at all. In fact, there were several teams in the mid-second round that were hoping that Terrence Shaw would still be there. So at this stage of the game, you get some disappointed clubs that thought they could get a sleeper type slide down that far. But there's Bobby Beathard, who likes athletes, likes guys who have some recovery speed. Terrence Shaw is not a small corner. 5'11 a quarter, 190 pounds, runs a 4.49, very productive senior year for the Lumberjacks. I talked to the coaching staff down there at Stephen F. Austin. They rave about the kid's character, and he's going to be a good fit in San Diego right away as a nickelback, because they like their corners. They have Gordon and Harper, but as a nickelback, this kid will do a good job. Shaw, remember, Larry Centers out of Stephen F. Austin has done a great job with the Cardinals. At a different position, Terrence Shaw should be a nice fit for the Chargers.
Was there any surprise that, he had to go in and fill in the secondary?
So he went down and got a pick here or there.
Figured the guy would be there. I mean, that's, you know, you're looking at Bobby Beathard, the master of moves, the master of putting together championship teams. And I think he's just taking his time to put together the integral pieces that he needs now to improve that secondary, which we saw the second half of the season really needed a lot of work.
You know, Joe, he has moved down into the second round before and gotten Means.
Right.
He's got Moten on the offensive line, right?
Both he's going to count on big this year.
And he's moved down, although this is only a few slots, to get Shaw. So, I mean, the track record of that sort of move by Bobby Beathard with San Diego is a good one. Houston will be on the clock when we return.
I know if you really care about somebody, nothing else should matter. But it does.
Sometimes getting close to him is all I think about.
I expect her to sweat if she's running a marathon, but not when we're close to each other.
Well, you just can't get close to a guy if he smells.
Get a little closer with Arid XX, the anti-odor antiperspirant. Arid XX helps keep you extra, extra dry.
I trust Arid.
I've got Unix, DOS, Windows, Macintosh. Got NetWare in Pittsburgh and Token Ring in Chicago. TCP/IP, AppleTalk, IPX, AS400 Anime, Ethernet, Twisted Pair, email, CD-ROM. Now, I didn't create the system. But it is my job to make sure that it's easy enough for people to actually use. My mother, she's always talking about the internet.
You're beautiful. You're everything I ever wanted.
If you love your car, what you put on it should be more than just a wax. New Zymol Natural Liquid Auto Polish protects your finish with beeswax and shines with rare Brazilian carnauba. Safe, naturally derived ingredients, so pure, powerful, perfect.
Oh, so beautiful.
New Zymol Natural Liquid Auto Polish.
Due to technical difficulties, we're unable to show you the picture on the new Toshiba FST Perfect. The problem is your set. Unlike the FST Perfect, the world's flattest 35-inch picture tube, your screen is more curved, causing distortion and annoying reflections. We will try to correct this problem by asking you to get rid of your set immediately and buy the FST Perfect. Thank you.
We are back at the Paramount Theater in New York for the first time ever. The NFL Draft being held in the same hall where we used to hold the ESPYs in here.
That's right, we did.
And we did, and now we have the NFL Draft in here. We have our band outside. We've had 34 picks. We've had all sorts of action in the first round. Had a trade at the top, which is unusual. We've had the 49ers move way up. We've had the Jets make some interesting plays. It's been an eventful first round. We had the Warren-Sapp saga. Finally, Warren went to Tampa Bay, and they got an excellent football player. And we had Steve McNair go to the team that, you know, where the third selection was Houston, and we give him credit for having the guts to make the call on McNair. One of the guys they were thinking about was Westbrook up in that slot. Yep. Now do they go wide receiver to go along with McNair here with the pick in the second round, Joe?
Well, I think so. I think, again, we have to go back and take a look at the fact that Jerry Rome is now the offensive coordinator. Jerry Rome has an opportunity now to build this football team. He's had smaller receivers. Webster Slaughter, of course, is been there. Givens is small. Pat Coleman is small. Wellman is small. Hanna is small. Reggie Brown. Now,
well, Jeffries is not on the chart.
Well,
right
Hayward
now.
Jeffries, but he's still not there.
Right, he's not there yet.
So, I mean, you know, Ernest Givens could conceivably move outside. Webster Slaughter is there as a veteran. Now, all of a sudden, but Jerry's going to need some people to throw the football to. One guy that's a very interesting person would be Frank Sanders out of Auburn. 58 catches his senior year. How about for a 25.7-yard average? The man is a producer, and he would fit in very well as far as you get a young quarterback, you get a wide receiver who's going to really be ahead of his quarterback, and so you're starting to build your football team the way you want to. Your offensive line's in good shape. You've got a good running back. I think that's the one area of need for the Houston Oilers on offense.
Well, let's look at Mel's board, Joe, because there was no question that the first three guys, Westbrook and Galloway and Stokes, were going to go very high, and they did. They all went by the number 10 selection. Now you get, here's your Frank Sanders and Jack Jackson. Who else we got, Mel?
Well, Jack Jackson, 5'8½". He would have been ideal for the old run and shoot the Oilers had.
Right.
Certainly not now. He'd be great for the Atlanta Falcons. Henry Bailey's a very underrated player. Great speed. They lined him up in the backfield. He was an outstanding return man. Chris Sanders came on like gangbusters this year for Ohio State. He will be an early second-round pick. Billy Williams, either a second or a third. Johnny Thomas didn't even play football last year, but he's a good-looking receiver, had a great junior year. And Chamberlain's a former Missouri Tiger who did a good job in the Big 8, transferred out to Wayne State, Nebraska, had a huge Hula Bowl. The only question with Byron Chamberlain is speed, and that's why he's right now in the bubble between round 2 and round 3.
I think.
Go ahead, Joe.
Well, the only other thing that, you might throw out there for the Houston Oilers, they have 5 defensive linemen. It's certainly an area where they might need to go towards the defensive line. I mean, there was a lot of talk in the beginning. Was it McNair, or were they going to go Warren Sapp? Were they going to go Carter on the defensive line? I still think it's something of a consideration for them. But right now, I would have to say you made the commitment to the young quarterback in the second round. Why not make the commitment to a receiver that can help you out in the long run? He's a big kid.
Not the guy for this spot. I want to ask Mel a quick question about Tamarick Vanover, guy that played with the CFL's Las Vegas. What were they, the Posse of last year? But Florida State was ACC Player of the Year as a freshman.
Came out as a sophomore,
Yeah,
right?
does he fit in second round, third
I asked
round?
a lot of clubs about him, Chris, and the best case scenario they told me was third round, and I had some teams say 5, 6, 7. So it's a mixed opinion on Vanover.
He's still under contract, but they could draft.
Right, they could still under, yeah, exactly. So he's kind of a wild card in this whole process. But another kid that's talking about a defensive end that I think could be a great pick, Sean King from Northeast Louisiana, pass rusher, upfield guy, great Senior Bowl, former tight end at LSU. Sean King's going to be an outstanding addition in the early second round for some club that has done their homework.
Well, let's head down to the Lone Star State quickly. The Oilers have 2 minutes left on the clock in the second round. Let's go to Chris Myers at Dallas. Any insight here on what the Oilers plan to do?
Yeah, and Sean King, by the way, also someone that the Cowboys have high on their board with 3 second-round selections. One thing on Houston, as Joe Theismann was mentioning, the debate, Floyd Reese won that one early on when they were thinking about Kevin Carter or possibly wide receiver. Well, this time the debate may be between offensive coordinator Jerry Rome and defensive coordinator Steve Sidwell, formerly of the Saints. Over the last 2 years, if you go back to a year ago, the Oilers lost William Fuller and Sean Jones and then Lamar Latham last year, as Joe mentioned, 5 defensive linemen. So they figure they've lost about 40 sacks or so. Childress is aging on the line. They drafted Henry Ford last year. They hope to go for a defensive lineman here to improve that area. They think that is the need area and pick up a wide receiver at some point down the road. At least that's what the Oilers are indicating. Let's now go to Carolina and Chris Mortensen.
That's right, Chris. Their defensive line needs have to be met in this draft. Anthony Cook, South Carolina State, is a name they're considering here. Of course, Frank Sanders, as Joe mentioned earlier, the wide receiver. Zach Wiegert, an offensive lineman from Nebraska. They have been offering around Ernest Givens, their wide receiver, seeing if there's any takers for him, indicating that they may bite on a receiver like Frank Sanders. Let's go back to New York.
All right, Mort and Chris. Well, everybody in this draft, by the way, his name is Chris. I think it's working. But let's go up to the podium and join Gene Washington, the Oilers' second-round pick, ready to roll.
Houston has selected defensive tackle from South Carolina State, Anthony Cook. Carolina's next on the clock from Cincinnati.
Well, Jeff Fisher is the defensive coach, and, you know, you want to take his first 2 picks offense. I mean, you could see where that one went. Hey, we got McNair, but no, give me a little help here. And they certainly have the need.
Absolutely. It's need. There's no question about it, Mel.
Well, I had heard very early in the process that Bill Parcells was very high on Anthony Cook. In fact, I projected him there in the report and the update. He slid down a little further than that, but a big kid, very powerful in the lower body. You see the leverage he gets and the explosion at the point of attack. Look how he gets underneath the pads of the offensive lineman. Comes out very low. Here he is against Grambling. You see him how he plays through a block and makes the tackle. Great job to play inside or outside. Can come through the center guard hole and get in for the sack. You know, not a guy who's going to run you a 4.7, 4.75, but on game day when he turns on the intensity, and this kid plays full tilt for 60 minutes, the only knock is the small college level. But I'll tell you, at the Senior Bowl practices, he was doing a heck of a job, Chris. And I thought going into maybe the last 2 weeks, he could be a late first-round pick. And like I said, Parcells